If anyone asks me what's the most important concept in basic programming, I would say for loop. However, for us beginners, the first time seeing this idea, it seems really abstract and non-intuitive. So, let's motivate this concept with a real-world example. Potato is working as a software engineer for Google now. His job is to print out every element of a Python list while saying hi. And he wrote this program. Potato's clever solution is to access the first element and assign it to the variable user, and print hi user. After that, the variable user changes to the second element, and print hi user. And after that, user changes to the third element, and prints hi user again. And finally he prints work done, going home. As you can see, Potato's overall strategy is to create just one variable, user. And he keeps recycling this variable by manually changing it to the next index, and then print hi user. His program executes perfectly. Good job, Potato. Everything is fun and games until this list starts to get really long. One morning, Potato realized user list has 5,000 elements. Does it imply he's going to write code like this? I mean, this works, but our Potato is definitely exhausted. Looking at his 6 hours long effort, Potato realized that his code is extremely repetitive. He is essentially just printing hi user over and over, while the variable itself changes to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. He wonders, what if the variable user can be a little smarter such that it changes on its own to the next element one by one? So that I only need to write hi user once. And this is the entire premise of for loop, which is to automate repetitive simple actions, finding small patterns to solve big problems. Now, Potato writes for user in user list, colon, indentation, print hi user. With this type of syntax, a for loop begins. The loop variable user is just going to change on its own. Hopping to the next element changes its value to that. Hopping to the next element and changes again. Every time after user changed the next element, the entire indented code block under the for statement will be executed. The for loop is going to repeat this change execute, change execute, change execute, alternating actions tirelessly all the way to the end. There is a sensation that the for loop is running. No matter how long this Python list is, whether it's 50 elements, 50,000 elements, or 50 million elements, Potato's program would run properly. A few syntax to point out. Remember in the previous chapter, we learned that the in keyword can check whether a data is indeed inside a list. The same in also appears when we're writing for loop. I just want to say those two in means complete different things under the two different contexts. This in is more like asking a question. Is it in there? This in is more like a statement saying that the loop variable user will change its value one by one to every element inside the list. Once again, we see the familiar colon and indentation syntax, which we had previously seen with the if-else statement. Only the indented code block will be executed repeatedly when the loop is running. Things outside the for loop will not be a part of the loop action. And this indented code block can definitely be well more than one line. Up next, we're going to get ourselves more familiarized with for loop by tackling 3 coding tasks while highlighting some common mistakes and misconceptions along the way. Suppose we have a list of numbers. This list can be short or very long. Your goal is to find out what's the summation of the list, or if we literally add all the numbers together, what would it be? If you've never seen a question like this before, I promise you the answer will be non-obvious, so for sure take a moment to pause and ponder. So, the central idea is to create a variable outside before the loop starts running. We initialize the variable s to 0. When the for loop is running, we keep adding values into the variable s. Currently, the loop variable number is 100. The code block to execute is s equals to s plus number, which means we update s by adding 100 to it. So s becomes 0 plus 100, which is 100. After that, the variable number hops to the next one. Number changes value to 5. The value of s at this point is 100. We increase it by 5, so s becomes 105. Of course, the variable number hops onto the next one again and updates s again. This process repeats, so the variable s is getting bigger and bigger by accumulating all the index the loop has passed through. By the time when the loop terminates, the variable s has already collected all the values along the way. Pretty ingenious, right? The variable s is a critical data we want to update in the midst of for loop. A very common mistake, which I definitely made often, is that we put the variable s inside the for loop rather than the outside. Let's see why this is a big problem. S equal to 0, since the variable s does not exist yet. This means we're going to create the variable s and initialize it to 0. S equal to s plus 100, so s becomes 100. So far so good. Number hops to the next element. As you can see, the line s equal to 0 is within the indented code block. So it's going to get itself executed every time. S is reset to 0. But what about the 100 you had seen before? It's not accumulating anything. Even when this loop reaches to the end, the variable s does not remember anything it's seen before. Obviously, this is a problem. So the lesson here is, we have to be really cautious about what variable to put inside versus the outside of for loop. Alright, spent a long time on the previous one. Task 2. Suppose we have a list of natural numbers. How can we find the biggest number in there? The solution, once again, is that we're going to create a variable outside the for loop called current max. The idea is to have this current max variable to store the biggest number the loop has seen so far. So it's initialized to the smallest natural number. As the loop starts running, we'll use a condition statement to check whether we should change current max. For example, at this moment, loop variable number is 17 and current max is 5. 17 is bigger than 5. But this also means that the current element is bigger than every single element the loop has yet seen. So we must change the value of current max to 17. On the contrary, if the value of number is less than current max, for example, number is 12 and current max is 17, that means there definitely exists an element somewhere before the current index. It is bigger than 12, so we don't change anything and move forward. As the loop reaches through the end, the variable current max has been compared with every single index. Every time when current max faces a larger number, it changes to that. So by the end, current max certainly stores the biggest number in this list. Common question 1. Do I have to name the loop variable as number? Nope. You have complete freedom in choosing the variable name. You can also name it current element, or just cur, or even C. As long as you use them consistently, it's going to work. Common question 2. When the loop terminates, namely outside the loop's indentation, can I do something about the variable C, like can I print it? So we cannot. The loop variable is kind of like an ephemeral variable that only exists when the loop is running. When the loop terminates, the variable C just vanishes after having done all its work. It disappears completely from the environment of our program. Outside the for loop, we cannot do anything about this variable. Suppose you and many friends are going on a road trip. You surveyed everyone for movies to watch together as a group. You ask them to append their own favorite movie to the list. And since certain movies are really popular, this list has some redundancies. As a group leader, you don't want to bore everyone by asking them to watch the same movie twice. Your goal is to create another list in which every element is unique. or every movie only appears in there once. The idea is similar. We create an empty list outside. As the for loop starts running, we conditionally append movies in there. Since I never touch on this not logical operator, let me inject a quick lesson on this. Suppose I have a boolean true. By putting not in front of it, it negates to false. By putting not in front of false, it negates to true. The thing on top is a boolean expression that evaluates to true. By putting not in front of it, it evaluates to false. As the loop begins, the variable mv stores the string endgame. By our design, unique lists cannot have any redundant element. We only append new movies in there if it is currently not in unique list. At the moment, unique list is empty and endgame is not in there. We append. Hopping to the next one. Spider-Verse not in unique list. True. We append. Next one. Endgame is already in there. We do not append. So if my verbal commentary of for loops start to get pretty monotonous and predictable for you, hey yeah, you start to really internalize for loop now. Looking back at our journey so far, we attempted to define the word programming. In Chapter 0, we said programming is creating interesting things. In Chapter 2, we said programming is the art of changing variables. Today, the definition is more refined. Programming is the art of changing variable in the midst of running for loop with conditional statement. The reason why I cherry-pick those three particular examples, because on one hand, I think it really drives this thesis home. On the other hand, there's some concrete setting for us to engage with programmatic thinking, rather than just using for loop to print out Python list elements. For loop is about finding small pattern to solve big problem, using very few lines of code to work with a list of data that could be unimaginably long. In many future coding situations, I promise you that you can find archetype of thinking stemming from these three examples. Next chapter, we'll learn about a more generalized technique of looping, and it will see many beautiful connections between coding and mathematics. See you there.